Hello and welcome to the Performance Racing League. You are joined for round 14, the final round of this season at Silverstone, England. So we have 9 drivers so far in this session, all of them on their outlaps except for Dr. J and the legendary GK Bass. Mr. Bean trying out the wet tyres, everyone else on the softs. And I believe Joe is going to be the first driver to start a hot lap. So let's just stay on board. And I'm just going to quickly fetch my laptop. So I'll keep you on board with Joe. So Joe making his way now down past where the old start-finish line used to be. It's still in use for some of the lower Formula racing. If you ever do track days, you'll normally end up starting around there as well. And now the infamous S's, Maggots into Beckett's, into Cops and so on. Fantastic stuff by Joe. Carrying a lot of speed there. Very, very fun part of the track. And now you've got to try and take that nice wide entry line, carry loads of speed, a lot of wheel on the curb is very nice. And then you want to really attack and cut inside here to open up this final corner, then keep the car wide and cut it in, don't hit the red sausage curb, and across the line Joe sets a 1:26.9. That is the banker lap to beat. I believe the next driver is, I think it might be Tar Heels, but we'll stay on board with Spin. So 2 drivers about to set lap times. Mr. Beam on the wets, of course, and then Spin with a realistic 1:26.95, so just off the initial banker pace. And I'm seeing spots of rain, so Mr. Bean needs to desperately put on some softs and put a lap in, because the track is only going to get worse from here. So these first laps could be crucial for the qualifying result. As Craig sets a 1:28.3, he'll be very disappointed. I think anyone not getting in the 1:26s is going to feel like they've got one more shot at it. Villeneuve with the 1:28.4. Tyle's 1:29.0. We're just now riding on board with Dr. J in the Red Bull. He's on the soft tyre. There's a yellow as someone slows down to let someone through. Dr. J, he is okay. Apologies. He's actually now only just setting a lap. Misread that one. But I think he's there just in time, so we can stay on board. That's okay. I'm guessing if we go up the order, though, we'll probably see a lot of other drivers. Yeah, they're trying to set back-to-back hot laps, even if their battery isn't there, because they're recognising this could be their only opportunity. Definitely the right call. Joe goes into the pits, so I'm assuming he might try and put a set of softs on, or he might just abandon mission. We'll see. But let's go on board. So Spin and Win has gone into the pits. He's had enough. Mr. Bean's on the wet. He's got to react. Tar Heels has invalidated his lap. So Villeneuve potentially one to watch. Craig as well, but Craig is 1 second down. So I think already the track has degraded, to the point where even that. So basically there was one lap, one opportunity to set a lap time. And really only 2 drivers grabbed that opportunity, and the rest will be kicking themselves. Having said that, though, to be, for example, in Hoop's case, on a 1:28, 1:28.3, it's perfectly good, and 4th place overall. So it's not a bad place to be at all, as all the drivers now will likely head into the pits. So Mr. Bean is in the pits as well. Yeah, he hasn't come back out. He realised that it was too late to react. So I would expect all the drivers to head in. Dr. J's getting a little bit of experience in the changeable conditions. And they'll probably have to just wait. I'll be completely honest with you. There might not be too much track action. So yeah, apologies in advance for that. But do bear in mind, I mean, there's 11 minutes left in the session, 2-minute break, and then the race is starting. So I wouldn't forgive you for setting a little 5-minute timer or whatever. But you never know, because in Silverstone, I mean, in Great Britain in general, the weather changes so quickly. So it could be in 6 minutes time it dries up, and then you'll see a mad scramble. But I think for the next 5 minutes or so, yeah, you can see GK there just really struggling with traction. So the drivers won't really have much incentive to go out on track other than to get some practice. And we get to definitely not laugh at GK Bass as he tries to make his way around the track. He won't mind me saying that. He takes it in good spirits. GK Bass, a previous PRL winner. I think it was it 2 seasons ago? I can't remember. So we can watch him drift around the track for a little bit. So Spin and Win's decided to go out, I imagine, on Inters, and that is the case. That would be the play. If you want to get some practice around Silverstone in changeable weather, this is the way to do it. So you can just use it as a time trial session. Don't expect rapid lap times, but do expect some personal development, I guess. Back on board, though, with GK Bass, and he is really driving the car quite nicely through there, sort of drifting it through. It's a shame that there aren't any drift flags. Whee! Look at this. Good entertainment for the crowd. Oh! Oh, GK. No, we rate the effort. We rate the effort. You almost held it. You almost held it. Don't hit that little buffer. Oh, man. And will he speed into the pit lane? Will he DNF? He DNFs! Oh, GK, come on, man. That was just too much showboating. Too much showboating. I'm going to keep it on your screen until you leave, just for that. That is the POV of shame. POV of shame. I was honestly ready to say that he was going to speed in the pit lane, and I was ready to laugh for that. Well, at least it's entertaining. I did say to people maybe take a few minutes break, but I take it back. I reckon you should stay tuned. DRS, of course, disabled. It's far too wet. I'm surprised it wasn't disabled last lap, or in the last couple of minutes. So Joe was just warming his tyres up. He wanted to really get the car up to speed, and now he's setting a hot lap. So pretty advanced strategy there. Oh wow, looking at Hoop's message, thanks Hoop for the insight. So 2 drivers were able to set a good lap time, the rest kind of left trailing and kind of game over for them. So yeah, Joe and Spin more than happy with this qualifying session. It is a great feeling when it goes your way. Mr. Bean, it's a planned last to first. Okay, that does make a lot of sense as to why you put the wets on. I kind of assumed something like that, I'll be honest. But it's good to see some confirmation there. Any comments for GK in the chat, anyone? Or did everyone miss it? I think we need to show him the love that he deserves. So 3 drivers in the pits. Everyone else is getting their practice in. Another question for the chat in case any of the drivers are around and can hear. Does anyone know what the predicted weather is for the race? Is it going to be changeable? Because, I mean, England is, as far as I know, the whole of England has crap weather right now. It's just cold and raining all the time. Dry. Dry, okay. To be fair, I live in the northwest, so it just rains. It's a question of how cold it is, not if it's raining. I will say that right now, in Oxford, which is kind of near to this track, near to Silverstone, I think it's in Oxfordshire, 100% rain right now, 6 degrees, 92% humidity. So I think they're going to have an easier time of it than would be the case in reality. Just riding on board with Villeneuve. Get quite a good view actually of the old, well, it's still in use, the lower tier pit lane there. This, of course, the scene of the infamous incident between Hamilton and Max Verstappen. But yeah, this is really just a bit of a time trial session. I think Joe has spun just into, I forget the name of the corner now, it's awful. But it's quite a common place to lose the back end. So yeah, you can see 6 seconds down. It's not quite, the conditions aren't quite there to improve. I mean, for the case of Craig and below, maybe if the track dried up, maybe they could stick a set of softs on at the end and give it a go. I think Joe and Spin, I doubt they'll be improving, so they're just having the time of their life, setting some fun flying laps. So yeah, first of all, this is the final race of the season. It's round 15. It's been a good season. We do already have a champion in the form of Mr. Bean, but there's still a lot of fighting to be done, I think, for second, third place perhaps. I can take a look at the standings more closely in a couple of minutes. Next up, if anyone does want to join PRL, wants to race, doesn't matter if you've ever played the game before, you just need to own a copy of the game. You don't even need a racing wheel. Yeah, you can kind of progress and choose what you want to do later on. The Discord link, I believe, is in the stream chat, so you're welcome to join us. Obviously, reach out in the chat if you have any questions. And finally, I believe all of the streamed videos are placed onto YouTube, so you can watch them back for your pleasure or depression, I guess. There is a red flag. Is that because... Sorry, not a red flag. I'm being stupid. There's a yellow flag. I misspoke really awfully there. There was a yellow flag, but at the same time, Villeneuve had invalidated his lap. That's what I meant to say. Joe's attempting the Drift Kings challenge. Carrying some immense speed through there. And perhaps the most pixelated stream of rain I've ever seen in my life. You wouldn't think that it's 2025, would you? Genuinely, if you saw that. I'm sure I've played games on PS3 that have better rain graphics than that. Oh, and someone's messaging as Performance Racing League, so the imposter is back. I'm guessing that's Craig. One day, one day. A little bit of here we go. It's a nice little battle on into turn one. The McLaren coming out on top. Oh, some side-by-side action. I don't know what they're racing for. Pride, ego, battle of the narcissists. I have no idea. But the Williams diving down the inside of Joe. This is some great stuff. It's going to be a traction battle out, but of course the Williams has the inside line. Great thing about Silverstone though, so many different lines, and taking it round the outside here can really work well. But will he trust the Williams not to run him off the track? We'll see. He's trying that line. He's trying to go around the outside. Williams showing lots of respect in the form of Mr. Bean. A little bit of a parade here, and now he's going to try the switchback is Mr. Bean. Oh, and he drops it and almost goes into the old pit lane that we were speaking about earlier. And here we go. And there you go. Look, see? That's how you do it. Just a little bit of sideways contact, but not enough to ruin anyone's race. You know, some of the pros could learn from that. Beautiful stuff through here. You can't normally get two cars side by side, but you can take a slightly different line. Try and maximize your exit speed down this quite long straight, deceptively long straight. Oh, and almost a late move there by Joe. I was holding my breath. And Mr. Bean, I believe, claims that place. But tries to overtake him into the pits. It's going to be non-stop. It's going to be a photo finish. Who made it into the pits first? Who wins the PRL impromptu race? I believe it's Joe. Good stuff. Well done, Joe. Definitely didn't dive bomb down the pit lane entrance. And my goodness, how on earth did Spin and Win not lose an axle and his neck? doing that. It's kind of hilarious that Spin and Win's car is still around, and yet Bass just completely lost it with, I'd say, much less contact. So yeah, Spin's retired. There's not much point to continue. It's quite clear the track's only going to get worse. Can be good practice though, but as has been pointed out in the chat, 17% chance of rain, so it's a difficult one because you can actually, well, I speak for myself because others I'm sure are better, but I find you can get dialed in on the inters and learn how to control the car, and then if you suddenly just switch to a completely dry track on, say, medium tyres, your brain isn't quite tuned in, and you drive really slowly because you drive like you're in the rain, and it takes maybe 1 or 2 laps to find your footing again, and by then you've lost 4 places. But I'm sure these drivers are better than I am. Dr. J, sorry, putting on a little bit of a show in the Red Bull, deciding not to pit. So the question is he going to cross that line? If so, I'm going to murder him. An excellent finish there. Very nicely timed indeed. Beautiful stuff. Crosses the line. Ah! Hoop with the low fuel mode. Lap. I doubt it felt that much slower than out on track. No disrespect to you, of course, just it was pretty slippery out there. So let's just run you through the order. This session was ultimately defined in the first couple of minutes. The first flying lap set the order. And with that said, Joe took pole with a great 126.9. Spin and Win just misses out with a 126.955. Then we got Craig, Hoop, Villeneuve, Tihels in 6th, Bass 7th, Dr. J 8th, and Mr. Bean rounds off the order in 9th, attempting the last to first challenge. So we will take between a 1 and 2 minute break, and then the race should begin, the final race of this PRL season. Stay tuned. Here we go then. 5 red lights, they're out, and away we go. Good start from all the drivers so far. Joe seems to have held on nicely to first place. But we do have a bit of pressure further down the order between Bass and Tar Heels. So the Aston Martin of Bass. Oh, and Hooper's run very wide. He's going to have to struggle to rejoin. Be very careful. He's going to drop a few places. But nice stuff from GK Bass, up 2 places already. Mr. Bean with a nice tidy start as well. And Hoop with that slight overshoot is down 4 places into 8th. But all overall, a pretty decent start. Joe, Spinnerwin and Craig maintaining their podium positions respectively. But down the order, Mr. Bean is making an early charge. He wanted to do the last to first challenge, so he stuck a set of softs on, and he is really pushing. He's got to make the most of the tyre advantage whilst he has it. So you notice he's trying to get the wider line, the wider turn, and that's it. And then it gives him a massive overspeed on the exit. In fact, he had to even back off because the better line and better tyres made the overtake inevitable. But GK is right behind. Is he going to spring out a surprise? 4 going into this corner, 2 by 2. Wow. And GK had to be so careful there. But he's going to go for the move now, I think. Oh, just ran out of room, I would say. And we've got to be careful not to go too far. He's going to lose a position, I think, on the left-hand side to Villeneuve here. Just got a little bit over-eager. In motorsport, if it goes wrong for one driver, it can sort of cascade down as the others overtake you. But he holds on to 6th place. Spin and Win maintaining good pressure onto Joe for the lead, which is great to see for this race. So Spin's clearly got some great pace to be keeping up on the medium tyre. And GK Bass almost running into the back of Villeneuve. He's got such an overspeed there. And he gets that move done, I believe. Villeneuve, though. Wow, Villeneuve's coming back. That's what we said earlier about Silverstone. It does provide good defensive opportunities. But overall, we just couldn't quite cope with the grip that Bass had. Good overtake. Bass up to 5th place. Meanwhile, Spin and Win is really catching up to the back of Joe, which is a little bit of a surprise, considering the tyres. So we'll keep an eye on this battle. And also GK is now already on the back of Craig, so trying to atone for the earlier errors, but it's looking very close. I'll stay on board with Spin. Sorry, Spin just took the lead. There's a lot going on. So Spin takes the lead, but also what we want to see there is Bass getting the lead. Sorry, getting the overtake done on Craig. That's good stuff there. So a couple of quick fire overtakes. Spin taking the lead, and Bass claiming 4th position. Joe, though, will have DRS, and he still has a nice tyre set. So I don't expect this battle to be over anytime soon. And Joe looks very comfortable in the dirty air of Spin. Massive lockup. I think it was from a Spin and Win. So DRS is about to be activated. 0.3, that should be enough. That should be enough to get the move done. But let's see. Maybe there's a slight difference in straight line speed. Oh, very late. Respectable, though. And then Spin and Win makes the most of that wide line that becomes the inside line. But now Joe should have slightly better exit speed. So we'll see how he fares going down the old start-finish line. It's... Okay, yeah, Joe has backed off sensibly there. Not the best place to try and overtake, especially when you're already in 2nd place. Craig all over the back of Bass. So he's certainly not giving up. Is he going to go for the move here? No, back to... Oh, careful not to go on the curb too much. As we switch back to Joe, though, for the race win. We're not going to miss it this time. Joe taking the lead with DRS. Mr. Bean catching up, though. So these two need to probably stop fighting, it has to be said. And there is a massive, massive group of cars in a very short space of track. One of the great things about this track, it does promote good close racing. Whoa, a bit of a squirrely move by, I think it was Craig. But that's okay. Just about. Oh, wow. And I believe Dr. J and Hoop are having a massive scrap for 8th place. But you know what? All these drivers are still in contention. The grid is very, very close. But as it stands, Joe is our race leader. Spin is putting all kinds of pressure on to reclaim the first place that he did take from qualifying 2nd a lap ago, 2 laps ago. GK, Bass and Craig are going at it. You know, good respect here from Craig. Massive props to him because he is really fighting back here. I was almost expecting Bass to pull away slightly, but Craig is not making it easy for him at all. And it's really helping the cause of the drivers behind because it's keeping them all bunched up. I mean, the big winners, of course, are the top 3 because it's allowing them to pull away. But definitely pay attention to this delta, 1.5 seconds. I expect this to go down, especially through Sector 2, Maggots, Beckett's, Cops. And that's my prediction. Could be wrong, of course. So Joe and Spin and win. Spin is going round the outside of Joe, and he has retaken the lead. And now Villeneuve and Craig are fighting, and that's kind of allowed Bass to escape the trap. So the top 4 now breaking the DRS sort of this big train here, extending all the way from 5th through 9th. Really close. Poor Hoop is, I think, almost being held up. He just can't quite get the move done. Very frustrating for him, I'm sure. Hoop, of course, one of the commentators for PRL. It's good to see him driving in the Mercedes, showing that he definitely has the pace to belong. And Joe now trying to reclaim the lead, and his tyres are 4 laps old on the softs. They should be okay for a few laps more, but the overwhelming advantage he had on the softs over the mediums will start to disintegrate. So if he's going to make the move, maybe now is the lap, and then try and give it one almighty push. Try and hope to force Spin into a mistake, or pressure him into a mistake, I should say. Let's see. Slightly further back than before, but it is quite a long straight. I don't think it's going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. So Spin is retaining the lead. Good stuff from him. As we see Villeneuve and Craig, the teammates, going side by side. Craig obviously does not defend that too hard. Allows Villeneuve through. Oh, I say that though. Is he going to go back? No, thought better of it. That was surprising. Got to be very careful over fighting. Oh, bit of an incident there between Dr. J and Hoop, I'm guessing. I feel like there were 3 cars at one point. Maybe someone slightly missed their braking. I really hope none of them have damage because they just missed the pit lane. Oh, Hoop has damage. And Villeneuve's off the track. Villeneuve has had to take to the escape road. Maybe he was side by side. He's fallen down to the back of the pack. So it's all changing here. Villeneuve in trouble. His tyres could be in trouble. His wing's not in trouble. But Hoop will need to box or pit. And he's got to do a whole lap to get around there. So that's frustrating. He could stick a set of hard tyres on, perhaps. We shall see. In the meantime, Tar Heels has closed up to Craig. So he's the new challenger for 5th place. Bass has really broken away from the group, of course, because of all the fighting going on. And actually, I don't know if Mr. Bean made a mistake, but I feel like the gap between him and the leaders has increased, not decreased. So maybe something happened there, maybe a slight mistake, but 2.2 seconds, it's pretty, for him, should be quite a nice challenge to see how long it takes him to catch up. As Joe takes the lead off Spin and Win, so he's done what he needed to do. I think now, really for his race to come alive, he's going to need to push for the next lap. He's got to break the 1 second barrier. 1 second, of course, is the window upon which you obtain DRS. So you've got to stay within that 1 second to get DRS. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, though. If anything, he's already on the defensive, and it's so hard to build up a lead when you're constantly on the defense. Like here, I think there could be a move. No. Spin backs off. He's going to play the long game. But it's going to be very difficult for Joe to maintain position. I mean, just look at the exit lines there. Spin and Win maintaining a lot of speed. And he's almost overtaken him before the DRS line. So a pretty easy overtake, it has to be said, in the end. But these two racing very nicely indeed. If we go down the order. So Tar Heels has closed up nicely to Craig. Still can't quite get the move done. But he's having a very nice race. And Hoop is pitting onto the hard tyres. Yep. Seems like a good strategy. Can actually pay off quite well. Depends what goes on. I mean, his worst case scenario, of course, is a safety car. But then actually, with a grid of 9, it's almost a best case in some ways, because he could literally just pit again. You know, if a safety car came out in a few laps, just pit onto the mediums, and you know, you're in 9th place, but you can see the lead car comfortably. So certainly not over for him. Joe wasn't able to reclaim first, so I think it's safe to say, as it stands, Spin and Win is having the slightly better stint. But it's a long race, and the question will be who blinks first, what tyres they go on to. You'd expect Joe or Mr. Bean to be the first pit stops, but maybe Mr. Bean will attempt an undercut. So lots of possibilities, it has to be said. And Tyhill's losing a couple attempts this lap to Craig, but he's still in the running. Otherwise, the grid is slightly splitting up now, which I suppose at lap 8, it kind of makes sense. Mr. Bean 2.6 seconds. So the good benefit of having two drivers in close proximity, assuming that they don't fight or overfight, is that they'll use DRS on each other to kind of catapult themselves forward. And you can do that to gain a little bit of a time advantage, because of course Mr. Bean by himself isn't getting DRS. So you see here, Joe's not going for the move, but he's accepting the free invitation of extra speed, and he's just following along behind Spin. So see there, the gap has opened up by 0.2, just in one straight. So if they play this safely and sensibly, they can try to limit the potential damage that Bean can inflict, because I'm sure they don't want to get into a fight with him. Lap 9 of 26. I mean, the race is going rather quickly, has to be said. And I think for the soft tyre runners, around lap 10-11 is when the window opens, but I could be wrong there. I want to say it's about lap 10-11. Yellow flag is out, and Dr. J has made a slight driver error there. He's gone off the track, rejoins into 8th place. I believe it was a driver error. I don't think there's anything going on. And Tyhill's is struggling, it has to be said, to stay in DRS range. So that suggests maybe the soft tyres are slightly starting to drop off now, having to use battery to reclaim the 1 second buffer, or get within 1 second, I should say. And yeah, anyone watching, if you do have any questions on the race or anything you want covered, just let me know in the chat. So now on to lap 10, where I assume the pit window will open for the soft tyre runners. Joe's setting some good lap times though. I mean, 1 second slower than his best, but that's not bad at all, really. With 9 lap old softs, that's good pace, good race pace, and it shows. I mean, Mr. Bean is struggling to catch up. So Spin and Win and Joe look very locked in. Look very deserving of the top 2 places so far. Tyhill's pushing very hard. Trying one more time to sort of catch up and potentially overtake Craig. And Hoop is 28 seconds down, but he had to change his front wing. He's on the hard tyre till the end. A pit stop here is quite long. It's a surprisingly long pit stop. I think it's about 25 seconds. So it's certainly not race over for Hoop, and he can comfortably make it to the end on these tyres. I mean, the only question mark is how will the hard tyre pace fare against the medium and soft? I mean, you can see he's 7/10 slower than his best lap. And to be honest, I don't think he ever got to set a good lap. I think he was always in traffic, but that was on a better tyre, so it just sort of shows that the hard is slower. And also got the challenge of having to sort of lock in by yourself. It becomes a bit of a mind game, I should say. You've got no benchmarks, no one around you, but you've got to keep focused and set fast laps and hope the race will come to you somewhere towards lap 22, 23. And Dr. J has received a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting, I believe it was, or exceeding track limits. Not ideal for him. So let's ride on board with Tar Heels. He's at the back of this little mini group of two, just him and Craig, staying within DRS range. I think at this point with these tyres, he'll be more than happy to do so. Trying to open at the front end as quickly as he can and then put the throttle down. And just about got DRS, but that was very tight. And I think Craig is purposely using battery actually before the DRS zones. He's trying to boot Tar Heels out, and it looks like this could be the moment where he does so. Because if you just look there, I mean, Tar Heels looked very slow through that right-hander. His car had no grip. He could barely turn. And there, like a shift down to 7th, that's normal, but then struggling to get the power down straight away, which does definitely prove the soft tyres are nowhere near as good as they were before. Yeah, so I think Craig has escaped, but Joe is certainly not repeating that. He wants to stay well within a second of spin. So far, so good. And quite evenly spread battery usage between the two of them, it has to be said. Evenly matched, I should say. Oh, Tar Heels has got into the pits, but he's sped in the pit lane. So not only is he experiencing a very slow pit stop, he's also got a 10-second penalty, which he'll have to serve if he pits again. And if not, it'll be added to the end of his race finishing time. Going on to the mediums. So this is very expected. Do kind of 11 laps and then go on to the medium. So only Joe is not pitting. He's got to be a bit careful because I think Mr. Bean on a fresh set of mediums, he can achieve a lap time that's 1 second quicker than Joe. That's my guess. And it was only a 2-second buffer. On top of that, the soft tyre could collapse at any moment. So I think he's done the right thing staying out this lap, stay in DRS for one more lap. You know, get carried around or pulled around a little bit by spin. But I think now is the time for Joe to pit and really put a marker down to try and win this race. So let's see what Joe decides to do. Both of them into the pits. Spin very late. I can't believe Spin's going into the pits. Nice early braking from both of them. They were not going to risk the 10-second penalty. I'm really shocked that Spin's in the pits. So I'm going to stay on board because I want to see what tyre he chooses to put on. It's a set of softs. Wow. Wow. I feel like I suppose he wanted to react to the other drivers. You know, he wants track position. He doesn't want to get undercut. I mean, the softs will struggle against the mediums for the last 2 laps. So it's going to be a close call. But this has really made the race interesting, I would say. So claiming track position over perhaps the most theoretically best tyre strategy. And actually, Joe is stuck behind Villeneuve. Hopefully not for too long for his sake. He does get DRS, but that's a bit awkward for him. He's got to clear the back marker. Not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, Silverstone is quite a nice track for overtaking, but even just through here, he's going to get held up a little bit. Yeah, really maximising the traction. He doesn't mind using the tyre up there. He wants to get the move done. It may have cost him a couple of tenths. GK Bass, who is technically the race leader, has just received a 3-second time penalty for, I think, corner cutting or exceeding track limits 3 times. But yeah, Joe's 2.3 down. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there, because I don't think either of them changed their wing. Yeah, I see the sense now behind what Spin's doing, because, well, there's no way he anticipated Joe getting held up by Villeneuve, but go on the softs and push out over that 1-second barrier, which is what I was speaking about for Joe back on laps 1, 2, 3 and 4. You know, he needed to overtake and build up the buffer. he hasn't done so. So it's always going to be a bit difficult. But I have to say, spin going on the soft so early, it's going to allow him to maintain a nice gap. And then he has to just hope that if his tyres do degrade towards the end, he might only lose 1 or 2 seconds. So I could well be wrong here. Maybe Spin judged this to perfection. And, well, we'll see in a few minutes' time. Mr. Bean down in 6th. So he's pit as well. Of course, theoretically, but in reality, he's in P3 when all's said and done. Already closing onto the back of Villeneuve. I think Villeneuve, he'll be considering pitting, but he might want to stay out because he wants to go on the softs and have an easier second stint. So I would expect them to pit probably next lap onto the soft tyre. That's my guess. Nice move by Mr. Bean on Villeneuve. And he, of course, then goes into the pits. But still, an overtake is an overtake. Sorry, Villeneuve goes to the pits. I'm really misspeaking today. So, yeah, I was expecting Villeneuve, Bass and Craig to do one more lap. But Villeneuve has decided to come in 1 lap early. Spin and win. Looking down the inside of Craig. Is he going to go for the move? Whoa! Very late. Had a lot of trust in Craig there. Because if Craig had braked late and turned in when he was entitled to, that would have ended very badly. But he gets the move done, being very aggressive. He really wants to win this race. It's quite clear. Takes 2nd place. And he's only 8 seconds behind Bass, who's yet to pit. So big time deltas. I mean, that's going to frustrate Bass seeing that, I'm sure. And of course, Bass goes into the pit lane. It'll be interesting to see where he comes out. We'll just stay with him for now, unless there's any intense action on track. But as it stands, Joe is dropping a little bit back, it has to be said, to spin and win. As you'd expect, with him being on the soft tyre. Bass rejoins comfortably, sort of among himself in 5th place. But, you know, he's got potential to catch up. It really depends what goes on with the drivers in front. All it takes is a mistake. But as it stands, it's very much his own race. So I think Mr. Bean's the driver to watch. We did say that he was trying to perform a last to first challenge. And he has been eyeing up Joe and Spin and Win all day. And it looks like Joe could be his first victim. Of the podium sitters, I should say. Tell you what, Craig narrowly avoided speeding in the pit lane there. Locked up, went a little bit sideways, but got away with it. You can tell that Joe's really trying now. He's trying to stabilise the gap, and fair play to him for doing so. So the race is really evolving. 9 laps left, lap 17 of 26 at this PRL final race of the season at Silverstone. So Villeneuve on the fresh soft is looking to get past Tar Heels, who also has a time penalty. Amazing, here we go. All over the back of Tar Heels. Opens that rear wing, takes to the outside, and comfortably makes the move just before the braking zone. Carries to the inside and claims 6th place. Mr. Bean stabilising at 1.6 seconds. I'll tell you what though, spin and win with the 6-second buffer to Joe. That is impressive stuff. He is really flying out there. Very nice indeed. I think Tiles has always been in the DRS of a driver for pretty much the entire race. Yeah, I want to say always. Looking to make the move on Villeneuve. It's going to be hard though, considering the tyre deficit and the pen. I know Villeneuve did just make the move, but what's fascinating with Tiles is he will lose the place, which kind of proves he hasn't always been in DRS. But you know what I'm saying. Like for most of the race, he's been behind someone, and he's been able to drive in such a way that he stays in DRS range, and that is in and of itself a very good skill to have. You'll always get lots of points if you can do that. As we see the Red Bull, I think of Dr. J zooming off in the distance. So Hoop has promoted himself up to P8. Dr. J had to pit onto hard tyres as well. So that's good news for him. And to be fair, I mean, there's still a bit of racing to go. Tar Heels has a 10-second penalty. So as it stands, Tar Heels is actually in 8th place, right? Hoop is just narrowly ahead. So there's still little things to play for if you see the right dimensions to the race. Mr. Bean now has closed up. I assume that's a mistake from Joe, because that was a very rapid gain. That's normally the giveaway. But either way, Mr. Bean is now, it's game on for him. He's in DRS range. Joe has a good defensive strategy, though, in terms of battery. And that's always smart. So I'm expecting perhaps an overtake deployment, but we'll see. We'll see how hard he wants to defend. Mr. Bean going full into medium, and then, yeah. So, to be honest, Mr. Bean was so close behind Joe that it was a bit of an easy move in the end. So Joe will be a bit frustrated, to be honest, with how easy he made it for him. But on the positive side, he did put up a great fight. He stabilised that gap for many laps, but I mean, it's so hard, isn't it? All it takes is one little mistake. The car behind putting pressure on, and this is what happens. Let's see, though, how Joe responds. And interestingly, 6 laps to go, and Mr. Bean is 7.5 seconds behind the race leader, spin and win. That's a big deficit, right? I mean, more than 1 second a lap. And these soft tyres of spin and wins, they're not degrading anytime soon. Joe has also just overtaken Mr. Bean under DRS, so he reclaims P2. Great move there. Mr. Bean trying to fight it. Is he going to cut into the inside? He is. Joe kind of showed him the door, though. I think he could have closed that if he wanted to. But he kind of left the gap, and Mr. Bean said, sure, I'll give that a go. So these two are fighting, which, of course, is going to make the gap to spin and win that we mentioned earlier even higher. So I think, really, spin and win is certainly his race to lose. And now Mr. Bean has to tuck inside through the S's as we now make our way into the next DRS zone. And it may be a rinse and repeat of last lap. I think he's so close behind that there's nothing Joe can do. So Joe simply accepts his fate and he decides to recharge the battery. Quite an interesting strategy you'll see with a lot of drivers. When you know the game's up, you just simply put the battery into none, which means no deployment, and you recharge it so that you can actually counter-attack. You can redeploy that battery and try and get back past. Battery usage a huge part of F1 nowadays, for better or worse. Perhaps the purists would certainly say for worse, but that's the way it is, and you have to adapt. Good lines by Joe. He's really putting good pressure on Mr. Bean. He's making him second guess, slightly cover the inside, and then Joe's deviating and taking a nice wide entry to maximise exit speed. Is he going to go for the move here on Mr. Bean? Just backs off. But Mr. Bean maybe runs slightly deep. He did. But Joe couldn't quite capitalise. Yeah. It's tempting. The right-hander there is tempting because you see the door open. There's two famous lines drivers take. And you've kind of seen them both there. One is very traditional, hug the inside. The other is you actually run a little bit wider and carry more speed, which is becoming more and more common actually with these ground effect cars, because the faster you go, the more downforce you get. So that's always an interesting corner. But it makes for good racing, because you can attack and defend in different ways. But Joe, I think, is going to quite comfortably reclaim this place. So the battle is truly on for second place. Down the order, though, GK Bass in 4th, Craig in 5th, Villeneuve is in 6th, but racing quite nicely, good pace. Tar Heels is in 7th, but has a 10-second penalty, so really hoops there. And then Dr. J is in last. He's struggling a little bit, has to be said, but hang in there. You never know what could happen. Back up, though, to this fight for second place. Is Mr. Bean going to go dive down the inside? No, he's not. He's going to hold on. And notice there, Joe then braked late, way too late, so it's then compromised him, and this is going to be perhaps the easiest move you'll see. No disrespect at all, this is good racing. But Mr. Bean put Joe under pressure. Joe messed up, braked a bit late, and then really the game was over at that point. But yeah, so many overtaking spots, so for all we know, Joe could overtake in a few corners' time. Oh, Mr. Bean running slightly wide in an unusual place. It'd be great to see how their tyre degradation is faring. Unfortunately, we can't see that information. That could be a big factor towards the end. Great driving there from Joe. Really nice line. And it should make the move fairly comfortable. But is Mr. Bean going to defend? No! Mr. Bean this time decides, I'm going to use some battery. And I'm going to go for it. But Joe is maintaining the outside, and it's going to become the inside. And he backed off, but actually Mr. Bean respected it. And he left a bit of room, but Joe concedes. So great racing between these two. Lots of respect shown. Oh, nice stuff there from Joe. Very late on the brakes, but corrects. And actually gets a fantastic line through here. I mean, this is a bit of a showcase special at this point. You're seeing some fantastic driving. I mean, for anyone that's learning this game or just motorsport in general, there's some great techniques on offer here. And you see Mr. Bean forcing Joe to the outside and then just slowly squeezing him to the outside and claiming the position. Does open the door here, but as I said, the outside line through that corner is actually not so bad. So Mr. Bean has a good exit speed and holds on to the place. So a great example of defensive driving there from Mr. Bean. And Spinnerwin, meanwhile, is just laughing all the way to the metaphorical bank. This time Joe didn't quite get the exit speed gain on initial exit, so he's going to have to do it all with his DRS. And how will he fare? We've got Mr. Bean just on the inside. Good, perfect braking, though, by Joe. Now Mr. Bean's going to dive down the inside. I don't think he can get the move done, though. But it's all about trying to put pressure on. I take it back. Good switchback and traction from Mr. Bean. And he's now on the inside. So is he going to commit to turn one? I think he's more than entitled to. And he takes the place. So great little switchback. I'm actually shocked at how good his traction was on the last corner. I personally really struggled with that. So now, here we go. Lap 24 of 26. Only 3 real sections then through here again to go. Joe this time forcing himself to the inside. Notice he kind of fainted. Oh, careful. Oh, he's held it well, though. Not only has he held it well, Mr. Bean is having a wobble. So Mr. Bean almost gifted it there, but really struggled. Perhaps was put off by what happened with Joe. And Joe is actually back up to second. Wow. Did not expect that. Wow, Mr. Bean, he's going to try it. He's going to try something special. It's going to be hard. Very, very hard. But is he going to get the place? This is definitely the overtake of the race so far if he holds it. Great stuff here. No penalties for either driver as well. Racing very clean. I don't think any contact as well. And now Mr. Bean down the inside. But I think this time Joe's going to hold it, you know. Unless Mr. Bean goes for the late move. Wow, look at this. This is fantastic racing. I mean, the quality on offer here. No contact. Just goes to show that when you're racing well, you can race side by side at very high speeds and not kill someone. And here we go. I think this is the first time we're seeing this, really. A proper attempt to dive down the inside there. You can use it as a decoy to force the other driver into a bad position. And then really get the exit speed here. Although Mr. Bean misjudged his overspeed compared to Joe. Had to back off. And that actually saved Joe. Joe being quite, I would say, quite passive in defence. I mean, not a criticism. I would have defended the inside there. Just judging by the closing speeds and distances, I would have shut that door. But Joe clearly backs himself with the line he took. And he's going to have to be careful, though. Oh, wow, this is dangerous. Oh, yeah, and Mr. Bean, he noticed the snap of oversteer that was coming his way. And he lifted off. And I'll tell you what, if he hadn't, I think those two drivers would have been out of the race. But really high quality stuff. Joe slightly messes up his exit line there. And I think just because of that, he's going to lose the place. So it's really fine margins. Every exit of every corner is crucial right now. And these drivers are putting on a great show. Notice, though, the gap to spin and win is just evolving constantly. Because every time you fight, you lose time. You can lose a second just fighting through one corner. And, you know, in motorsport, a second is a millennium. So we're on the final lap. Spin and win is your race leader, but Mr. Bean and Joe are fighting for the final 2 podium places. In terms of penalties, the top 3 are completely flawless so far. GK Bass with a 6 second, Tiles with 10 is your main kind of headline facts. Contact between Joe and Mr. Bean. They kept it so clean for so long. But you know what? I think somehow, Joe has no damage. It looked awful on the stream, but I tell you what, I think he's got away with it. And he's maintained second place, so that was close. I mean, Mr. Bean almost did it on the last lap, right? Misjudging the overspeed he had. The problem Joe has, knowing this track, is there's only one DRS zone left in this race. And Mr. Bean is going to claim it. He's going to have the rear wing open. And look at him, he is attacking here. They both actually slightly messed up the final line. But they are both attacking hard. Very hard indeed. And Mr. Bean, he's going to have to try something around the outside here. Joe's going to have to get the elbows out, surely. Oh, contact! Contact, that was almost inevitable. Almost inevitable. Joe was never going to concede there. He was always going to try and run it as wide as he could in the fairest way, which he did. Great stuff indeed. Spin and win, your race winner. But Joe just about holds off Mr. Bean to take second place. GK Bass now rounding off the final 2 corners of lap 26, the final lap of this race. And he is going to comfortably, I believe, take 4th position. Craig, though, was trying hard, I think, to catch up to the penalty distance of Bass, but I don't think he's going to do it. Let me check. No, misses out by 2 attempts. You could see he was trying all that time, but it just was not quite enough for him on this occasion. Villeneuve 6th. Now, the next difficulty is between Tiles and Hoop, and I did not say earlier that Hoop would be fighting for 7th. You know, he'd be fighting to beat drivers that have penalties. And he's driven really well. Phenomenal race, phenomenal recovery, and actually 7th place, in my opinion, is a good result, all things considered. Tar Heels takes 8th, and Dr. J's had a difficult race, it has to be said. Is going to be the final driver to round off the grid. And just looking at the winners and losers, I mean, big winners in Mr. Bean up, of course, from last to third. But yeah, some good racing all the way through the order. Lots of action almost every lap. And I think the battle for second was surely the highlight. Having said all of that, driver of the day, I completely disagree with what it says on the screen. Driver of the day has to be Spin and Win. He took the very confident, ballsy decision to pit onto soft tyres very early, matching the medium runner just for track position. He then built a buffer and put great lap times down. And again, an imposter in the league has messaged. No idea who you are. But yeah, only 2 tenths indeed. Good stuff. Excellent driving. So Spin and Win takes the lead. There was certainly no spinning this time around for the Alpine driver, who had a very solid race. Good lap times all the way through, and a nice comfortable victory in the end, but really earned it in that first stint. It wasn't plain sailing for sure. Joe incredibly sees out a fantastic race and claims 2nd place, with Mr. Bean just missing out in 3rd place. Bass takes 4th, set the fastest lap as well, just had a bit of contact earlier on. Craig 5th, Villeneuve 6th, Hoop 7th, good recovery, Tar Heels 8th, and Dr. J rounds off the order. Wow, we're already out of the lobby. So I didn't get to see the race incidents, but hey-ho, when people ready up, that's what happens. So that was the final race of this PRL Championship. Your commentator today was Lucas Aid. I hope you had a great time. As I said before, feel free to join us in Discord or leave a comment. Anything really, always happy to have new members, regardless of quality or experience. Just happy to try out new people, and it's good for everyone. So give it a go if you can. But if not, I think there's going to be a slight break between this season and the next one. So I don't think there'll be any racing in 7 days' time. But I do hope you enjoy a fantastic end of the day. Perhaps you're going to watch the Super Bowl. I hope you get the result you want. And until next time, take care.